probably will at the end. I want to thank y'all for being here. I want you to just say, my body be a church.
My body be a church.
Say it like you believe it. My body be a church.
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 Mm. I grew up in a Southern Missionary Baptist church where we were always taught you had to go to the house of the Lord. And it wasn't until I became a mature adult that I realized that I am the house of whatever that is you want to call the Lord, the God, the Creator, the Most High. Because wherever I am, there, they, it may be also. Lord, I know I've been changed. Lord, I know I've been changed. Lord, I know I've been changed. The angels in heaven done signed my name. If you don't believe that I've been redeemed, the angels in heaven done sign my name. Just follow me down to that old Jordan stream. The angels in heaven done sign my name. Good Lord, I know I've been changed. I know I've been changed. I know I've been changed. The angels in heaven done sign my name. The angels in heaven done signed our names. The angels in heaven done signed our names. My body be a church, be a temple, be the most sacred place to worship God in. Be a place I want to be every Sunday and every other day of the week. Be a choir and a congregation and a gospel hymn whose hand clapping and foot stomping rhythms is set to my own heartbeat. My body be a place where its word is not for reciting and reading, but for living. My body be a place with its own pictures up on the walls, alongside the faces of those whose blood is not in my cup, but runs through my veins. My body be a building without leaks or collection plates or pews or men shouting and spitting hellfire into its uncondemnable bones. My body be a place made of water, so it is a place of baptism and rebirth from the inside out. My body be holy ground, be hallelujah, be a place where the gates of hell cannot prevail, be a place where heaven already is and where God already is too. And you ain't never received an invitation to the doors of a Louisiana cookout or barbecue or crawfish boil or trail ride or fish fry have been opened unto you. Especially on the kind of hot summer day when the humidity sticks to your flesh like sin. The kind of day when everybody backslides, going back and forth between fanning flies and mosquitoes away and any cool breath God can spare in. And y'all here in this church ain't no fancy gold trays laid out on white tablecloths. Nah, instead, communion. Communion be served on a spread of paper plates and plastic or styrofoam cups stacked on top of a card table that is still here only by the grace of God. And we do this in remembrance of everything we be trying to forget from the day, the week, the year, or the lifetime before. And after thanks is given and everybody partakes in the broken body of some life that has been sacrificed for our hunger, then it is time to get a praise break popping like fish grease. And we can't tell if it's the 100-degree temperature outside or the fire shut up in our bones, but we proceed to dance right through the flames like hell can't touch us any more than it already has. And the choir, y'all, the choir belts out Boosie, belts out Frankie Beverly and Maze, not Maze featuring Frankie Beverly, belts out anything Swisher House, belts out Tucker, belts out anything Bounce, Southern Soul, or Zydeco, louder than the speakers, in perfect harmony like it done been rehearsed a million gatherings before. And the testimony of a sweaty top lip shouts, yeah! And not so far in the distance, a Bud Light can toast the air. or a red cup full of that brown toaster air. And hands go up and seem to stay there and wave from side to side as if to testify that whoever the DJ is, they have indeed just played somebody's song. And the hands and the voices keep raising and the asses keep dropping, scraping the ground like a cutlass with a trunk full of woofers. And those who can count the steps to the left and the slides to the right and the hops to the left and the turns to the right, and we wobble, baby, wobble, but we don't never fall down. And today don't nobody feel no ways tired, Lord, and every able body keeps the beat until the last second of the song fades into the next. And a backyard just like this one, full of kinfolks fellowshipping, transforms into a hole in the wall of Jericho. And every battle we were worried about the day before now comes a tumbling down. And some days, y'all, this is what we call a get-together, what we call a family reunion, what we call a celebration, what we call victory is mine, is what we call done got over. Today, we celebrate that we are still alive too. And we go ahead with our bad self. And we shake our things like tambourines, like collection plates begging to be filled with change. But we just make sure to have them same asses sitting in the pews come Sunday morning.
I say.
Amen. Look, when I got dressed today, I felt like I was getting ready for church. Okay. I had my Mahalia Jackson playing. I was calling in the spirit. It must be said that both Khan and Shanice are my prayer partners. We pray together every Monday with a group of Black women, so it feels good just to be in that community out loud in the flesh. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful for each of you being here and making space. There's so much going on in the city today, so it really does mean something significant that y'all came and fellowship with us in this way. My name is Naomi Sherrill. I am from the great city of Chicago. I've been making home in New Orleans for 10 years. My mother was born on a plantation in Yazoo, Mississippi, and my daddy and them are from Deer Mar, Arkansas. And a lot of my work, I speak about where I'm from, and as someone who is not from this land, but is a lover of this land, I always like to tell you who I'm coming in the room with, okay? So I'm going to start with a poem called Remembering. Ancestors don't always come in whispers. They don't always tuck kindly in corners laced with rosaries. No. Sometimes they come reckoned and reckless with ribbons tied to their tongue, vengeful with slingshots wrapped round their thighs, haughty with the finest type of rebuke. They come steady-handed and worthy. My ancestors bear salt on their tongues, lift rocks and waters and make them cry out. These rocks and my ancestors know the name. They gather and become God. My ancestors make those who pillage our rapture know the fruit, make them swell with pus, choking on the abundance of ravished trees and thick brown cracked out water. Ancestor, I cannot deny that name. We are a woven piece of divinity, and I am their most indignant war cry. And together we are many, and we ain't never gonna come kindly. We will lift our blood, skin, breath, and hands in union to make this earth shake and testify our name. This is harvest time. Thank you. That one always, the ancestors be rocking it out of me. So thank y'all for being with me today.
Ashe. Give it up one more time. All right. So before we jump into this discussion, we've been in our group chat like, oh my God, I can't wait. I want to give a formal introduction to both of these dynamic individuals. I'm going to read straight from their bios because, baby, I'm going to put some respect on their names. All right, so first we have Miss Shakandria Icon Sibley, who is a testimony of small town country girl roots, an Alexandria, Louisiana native, poet, writer, and multimedia artist whose work spans across page, stage, canvas, theater, music, talk radio, and short film. The once aspiring heart surgeon, Semantics is key. Searching still heals hearts, but now has a different operating room, administering medicine through her art, which returns us back to the source, the land, and the people who nurture and are nurtured by both telling stories of faith and family, legacy and lessons, healing and holiness from the kitchens and classrooms of our mothers. A multiple time, say that one more time, a multiple time National Poetry Slam champion and viral spoken word artist. Her work has been featured on many platforms, including TV One's Versus and Flow, Huffington Post, for Harriet, Teen Vogue, and BBC World Radio, and has also featured on multiple recording projects along Grammy and Golden Globe Award winning artist, icon that you are, is the author of My Name is Pronounced Holy, a collection of poems, prayers, rememberings, and reclamations. Come on, hand clap. Next, we have Miss Naomi Sherrill, who is a living witness with Mississippi blood. She is a spirited writer, educator, and alchemist from Chicago, cultivating soft places for Black folks to land. Naomi aids folks in the practice of returning to the body and nurturing personal relationship with their divinity. She explores how our metaphysical homecoming expands the space and freedoms we access in our physical worlds. As a multi-dimensional artist living in New Orleans, Naomi crafts stories and creates experiences rooted in remembering, acceptance, pleasure, and change grounded in Black feminist scholarship. Through their work, Naomi seeks to excavate the heart of human suffering and inspire moments of levity and transmutation. Naomi's first and forever love is the page. In her literary works, she architects poems, works of fiction, and essays that incorporate fantasy, magical realism, and themes of revival. On their Substack, plug, the Pleasure Archive, Naomi explores the interdependence of joy and pain through essays, poems, and meditative exercises. Naomi unveils musings on their journey for personal sovereignty and the magnitude of feasting on pleasure in the midst of a world on fire. Naomi creates these works as the descendant of a captured people forced to build on stolen land. Following the release of her chapbook, The Clearing, a Black Girl Collecting Her Bones, Naomi began writing her first novel, In Search of Home, a speculative fiction story set in 2040 that interrogates how environmental decay impacts our desire, decisions, and relationships. Most recently, Naomi was selected to workshop their novel with Abode Press and Tin House. Naomi's published works have appeared in Midnight and Indigo, Blackberry, a magazine, and the Center for Black Literature, and Killings Review. Sheesh. Okay.
It ain't till you hear it out loud.
I
So you be like,
know.
we really done something.
Yes.
We're doing the things. We're doing the things. It's in progress.
And shoot, I don't need no long bio because, honey, I am just the facilitator in this greatness. But
Let's give a round of applause for Shanice Bird, okay?
Thank you.
Shanice is an incredible facilitator, is an incredible host, creates incredible experiences for Black women and femmes, and is an incredible coach and consultant. So I just want us to make sure we shout out Shanice.
Thank you. And I was about to downplay myself now. I like to say that I am a woman of a lineage of Black women conjurers. Our religion is agape love. I'm a collector of memory, and I'm a radical storyteller, and particularly for Black women and femmes. So it is a privilege to be here with y'all, to be invited in to guide this discussion. And at this point, I just say we surrender to spirit. Let go and let God. So reading both of your books, there was this beautiful crossover of themes of Black spirituality, deep Southern roots, self-reckoning. And we're going to get into all of that, but I want to start with your Southern lineage, considering what we're witnessing right now, right, in terms of our political climate, more particularly our voting representation. Black folks in this country, particularly in the Deep South, we have been fighting for our existence, let alone our representation for centuries. And, I think about those who aren't from here, not just New Orleans, but the South in general. They love to romanticize certain aspects of us, right? Our cute little accents, right? Our warm hospitality, our good cooking. And there's so much that has been extracted from the South in terms of our resources and our culture, but we don't really get to see that return tenfold in terms of accurate recognition of our contribution to society. And I say that because reading both of your books, they read like love letters to the South, right? I heard it in a voice of a sweet molasses drawl, right? And the vivid imagery. Specifically, I'm just gonna read a few bars because they're gonna read some more of their poetry. But Shakandra, in your poem "Good and Country," I love these lines. We said, "So country, I be taking sips of lukewarm tap water from the Mason Dixon jars, filled with so much metal I can still taste the shackle. Country enough to be sitting on the hoods of broke down American-made cars, cause the yard full of them, so they must be good for something." And I smiled so hard reading that because even though I'm not from Alexandria, I'm not from your part of the South, that brought me back to memories of being at Grandma and Granddaddy's house down there in South Florida. And so my question for you both, but starting with you, Shakandra, is what does it mean for you to be a Black woman with deep Southern roots?
So I always say that Black Southern women are the reason we built America with our own hands and our own wombs and our own mouths and our own sweat and our own blood. So America has everything to thank about its existence because of Black women in the South. So I do feel a deep expectation of myself to represent not only just for myself being here, but for the women who came before me who didn't have the opportunity to speak, to move around so freely as I get to. So me being a writer and being an artist in general is literally just an offering to my ancestors. My family, and then Southern families, it's always like, oh, you're expected to get married young, have children, and I am such an unorthodox Southern woman, especially where I'm from. All my cousins married, got buku babies and stuff, and then I'm just like the wild child who's running around the world with a passport and a book of poems, But I feel like that is part of my lineage and my legacy to offer to the women before me who were taking care of other people's babies and washing other people's dirty drawers and cooking other people's food or whatever. It is literally their reclamation. So it means a lot. I take it as the biggest vow of honor, and I feel so chosen. I think I thank the Creator every single day just for this gift and the weight that comes with it, but also the reward that comes with it, and not just the reward for myself, but what it looks like for my people. I get to write us into being and to preserve us, and that's my job.
Yeah, I'm just having so many good feelings being here. I think a lot about persistence. I'm a great migration baby, right? I wasn't raised in the South. I was raised in Chicago. And so to me, to be a Southern rooted Black woman, what I am reminded of is our spirit of persistence. Because I look at my nieces who they touched the South, they've been to New Orleans, but they haven't been to Jackson, Mississippi, where our lineage is from, but they seen it and have been with it in their grandmother, you know, who gets down on their knees and prays with them. And my Maya's doing that too, and they're seeing this tradition that is predates our existence up north. Because I'm first generation born in Chicago. All of my relatives are born in the South. So I think about the persistence. I also think about my ancestors, you know, they really dragged me down here, okay? They said, you're coming home. I went to school in Missouri, and it was so clear that I was moving to the South. I was applying for all these jobs. I was only getting jobs in the South. It was like they had a mission for me, and it was to come on home and be in relationship with my ancestors. And when I think about being a writer and a vessel, especially when I was writing this collection, because you know this is Sit and Simmer, so this is a work I really wrote from like 18 to I say 25, but it got published when I was 25, but I probably wrote the last poem around 24, right? So it was a particular age. It was at the intersection of leaving college and coming to New Orleans, where I feel like my Southern lineage was showing up in my tongue before I really had context for it fully, right? I would sit down and write, and my people had things to say. And what's also true is I unfortunately lost a lot of elders early. So I came into this world with my namesake, my grandmother, already an ancestor. My great aunts were already an ancestor. I didn't really have that experience of growing up with that generation of people because, you know, cotton killed them quickly, right? So I feel that when I write that it's like, okay, baby, you got your business, but we got our business. And I feel poetry in particular is my vessel for that. It's my like, okay, what is it that we got to say? And I feel it every time I do Rememory, I shake, and I know it's because it's all my ancestors, you know, like, oh, rub it up, you know, in the body. So, but as I think about being a Southern Black woman, I think about my really persistence and just how, you know, you can't shake it out the blood, and just we can go up north and we can camouflage it and we can and see and feel relicas of the culture, but also the heart and the blood of it and the spirit of it is still in all of those northern places.
I'm gonna say, like you say, it's in you, it ain't on you.
Yes.
And y'all, I'm gonna say this: when I first met Naomi, it took me forever to realize Naomi wasn't from the South. I just knew. I was like, "Are you sure you?" Now this lady is telling me where they from, and I'm asking, "Are you sure?" Because Naomi just always felt very Southern, very familiar, very could be one of my cousins from Shreveport or somewhere. Like you really could be. Like you give that. You molasses, baby. And so we were just already destined to be kindred from first meeting. And I'm going to tell you right quick, I know she needs moderating. We met in the classroom. We met at Ashe. We met at Ashe first, and then I went into Naomi's classroom. Naomi, thank God, not thank God. We needed her in the classroom, but she came out of the classroom, but she used to be the most amazing teacher who made space for her students and allowed them to write and free themselves. And some of her students now are teaching poetry, like it's a full circle moment. But I just give thanks for how we met, and like this is a full circle moment, just being here from the classroom, from Ashe to the classroom to Treme to wherever we go.
I love you. This is a love circle. Y'all can come on and sit down. Make sure you get you some sweet tea. Get comfortable. It's like
and y'all in the audience can come on in too. Don't feel like y'all way out there like witnessing. I'm one of those people. Yeah, I'm one of those people that like I need the energy of like feeling like it's an interactive situation. So if y'all got some amens and some whatever, don't feel afraid to open your mouth. Because I went to a church that was not very organized. They used to talk while the preacher was talking. So.
That's why I was like, child, you know, I grew up Baptist. You're like, I know she moderating. I'm like, did I not say we surrendering up in here? All right, I love that. And, you know, maybe you talked about your ancestors. They was tugging you back to your roots. And I'm wondering, has there ever been a time where either one of you where you wanted to distance yourself from the South? And not necessarily physically, but in terms of folks' association with the South, in terms of how they perceive you, if that makes sense. Because like I mentioned earlier at the top of this conversation, people romanticize certain aspects of the South, but then there's a lot of there's other parts of our identity and culture that is misconstrued. They like to dumb us down, and there's like a lot of negative connotations that are associated with our culture. So I'm wondering, have you ever found yourself where you experience that tension of wanting to distance yourself in terms of your identity?
I think I've never wanted, I always say, MI, crooked letter. Like, I love claiming the South, even as, again, somebody who grew up in Chicago. I would say what I wanted to distance myself from, and I kind of talk about it in Wet Behind the Ears, is the presence of spirit in the South. I felt that there was a way in which modern and Western and TikTok and Instagram was trying to make language and personify this spiritual experience that they were associating with hoodoo and Black Southern tradition that had haunted me my whole life. Right? So I think it was hard for me, I think when I first came to New Orleans, and I'm like, yo, I had a dream about my daddy dying before he died. That's how spirit has been showing up for me. Like, I used to be afraid to be in the sanctuary alone at night because I could feel the ghosts so deeply. So to then come, and I felt like there was this way in which Southern spiritual culture had been commodified and resold back to us on social media that felt like it didn't acknowledge the gravity of what we were talking about. And I think that that is something, when I first grounded here, that I was like, I don't really know what to do with this. And also, being also in the conflict of a lot of people come in, and what I will say is that for me, spirit and hoodoo lives in my blood and my body. Like I said, a lot of my people was gone. So I had to listen. I had to let it come through me and get downloads. And also having to ground in that in the face of someone who might have a different way of relating or a different way of getting that resource and information, and also understand the authority of mine. And also the authority of watching my mama and watching my aunties, who I always say were my first practitioners, watching my mom anoint the walls with oil, every new year, and make her black eyed peas, and have rituals for the rituals that she did, even if she didn't call it that. But having that experience and seeing how it was represented was something I struggled with.
I think more so. So I'm learning to open. As if my throat chakra ain't already open, I've learned I need to open it a little more. So I'm gonna say something a little controversial. I never found myself wanting to separate myself from the South necessarily, but I will say I was more so ashamed of being country at one point, and that came from living in New Orleans, honestly. Because there was this separation that's very clear that New Orleans ain't Louisiana, right? And New Orleans people will let you know that, baby, this ain't that, okay? And so I never was proud of or ashamed of, but I was made very aware when I got here that there was something different about me, and I wanted to separate myself from that. So in the earlier parts of my work, I never really talked about a lot of my family or my background, but when I began to take back myself and reclaim myself, I started to find such a pride in that, to where now all of my work, that's all my work is my great grandmother, Mama Dear, my grandma Frankie, and them. And my Southern Missionary Baptist Church, Mount Beulah, and is the Sonia Quarters, my little neighborhood I grew up in, where you might see 10 cars and 8 of them don't work in the driveway, the TV on top of the TV, on the porch, all of that. So, and the way we speak as well, there was a time, and I also was the only Black kid in class. I was in the gifted and talented program, which I found out later on might have been a little CIA project. But we ain't gonna get into the conspiracy theories. But I found myself code switching a lot when I was younger. Right. I found myself code switching a lot when I was younger, just for safety and for survival. And it wasn't until later on I was just like, you know what? There's something real special about the way I sound, and people already love the timbre of my voice, so I might as well put this little twang on there too and bop y'all with the double bop. And so I've just been more and more reclaiming that. But yeah, I've never been unashamed to be Southern. I feel like that's the best thing you could be. I be going up to people, y'all ain't Southern? Oh, shame. Maybe next go around, maybe next life you might be blessed. Yeah.
I love it, and I definitely want to dig a little bit deeper into your journey back to deep love and reverence for the spirituality in that country is when we get to the reclamation part of the discussion. But I want to start going into Black womanhood, because that's another theme in both of your books. So similarly, how you both talk about spirituality and religion and being very complex and multidimensional, you do that with Black womanhood. And preparing for this conversation, there was a reel that came down my Instagram timeline, and it was with Issa Rae, and she was talking about the early production phases of her show Insecure. And apparently the execs, they did not want the show to be named Insecure. They didn't like it. And it was like, no, when we see these characters and these women, they, they're strong and they're fierce. And she was like, yeah, we're that, and we have issues, and we have insecurities, and we have pain, and we're unsure of ourselves. Like, we're all these things. And so that sentiment is what I got from several of your poems, was that reclaiming our power is reclaiming all the things that make us human, right? Like, we want joy, we want pleasure, we have sex with ourselves and partners, and if we lucky, we get orgasms too,
Like, that shouldn't be no if we lucky, that's a mandatory. That's optional.
I'm like that Denzel, I'm leaving it with something.
Right, period.
I'm just saying, everybody pay attention to business anatomy class. But yeah, but like, we're claiming everything that makes us human. We're allowed to make mistakes. And even like the spirituality piece. So what I got from some of the poems when you talk about your journeys with religion was that you had this Christian upbringing, right? You allow space for your traditional teachings, but you also allow room for your own journey in terms of your chosen practices, right? You allow for interrogation around what you've been taught. So being that that's such a key theme in your books, I want to know, like, how has spirituality shaped how you navigate through the world? And then I know you touched on a little bit of it in terms of how you strengthen your relationship with your Southern spirituality. So,
You want to go? Go ahead.
You're talking, as you were talking, so I have a poem, Wet Behind the Ears. It's probably one of my favorites, and it's like a coming of age poem at the end. I grew up in the church. Bible study, praise dance, drill team, junior usher board was given. This is the reason I know how to work a microphone. It's because of church. Okay, I had to perform Maya Angelou and a full African. We love our African Sundays at church.
Yeah.
Anyways, I told my mother I believed that Jesus was a metaphor when I was 16 years old.
Ooh, you was bold.
Bold, I'm an Aries. And you have to understand again, my mother is from Yazoo, Mississippi, Southside, Chicago. Grew up in the church. They know
Eastern Side.
loves her Christ.
Yes.
And then gave birth to me as her only child and gave me the name of her mother, right? And then I look at her at 16 like, I think Jesus is a metaphor, and I thought I ate with that. But what I understood and what was happening for me was I remember being like 5, and you grow up in a church that becomes your doctrine. I remember being like, okay, so if you don't proclaim Jesus as your personal savior, you can't be saved. But what about the little baby in China who ain't never heard of Jesus? What if something happened to that baby tomorrow? They can't be saved? Like, it wasn't clicking for me. I remember feeling this way young, like going to sleep, wondering, like, this ain't all it is. And when I was 16, I was becoming very tuned into the elements. I was seeing the way I was moved by wind. I was like noticing the water, and I was really understanding spirit outside of the context of the Bible. And that is, I think, really what allowed me to evolve my personhood and my consciousness, to have the grounding of, okay, yes, this is what the Bible said, but this is what I feel. This is how the air and the trees are making me feel. So I feel that I don't even quite remember the question, but I do remember I told my mama I thought Jesus was a metaphor, and that was a transition of me beginning to see spirit outside of the confines of religion.
Baby, let me tell you how spirit works. Because that was actually my backup question. I wanted to know, like, describe the tension between, was there a moment where there was tension between your traditional teachings and, like, your own enlightenment of what has become true for you? So I was like, what you mean?
I would say when my mama started seeing, I think that my mother sees the spirit of God in what I'm doing. You know, and when she could see it and feel it with her own eyes and be like, and me be like, I want you to say something because that's your mama. You know, on this altar that you might have a problem with.
Yeah, Mama Vicky is a little more open-minded than my mom. And them, because it ain't just my mom. A little bit, a lot of bit. I will say, so, I wasn't as bold to say that. However, I feel like it's just been a shift where my family has seen how I interact with spirit and how I am a conduit of spirit in a different way. And I feel like art is what really opened me up in writing. Like I tell people, I conjure through writing. Like a lot of times I will finish a poem and I don't even realize I wrote that thing. And then I'd be like, oh, that's some good shit right here. But it really is like a spiritual practice for me. And I think once they've sat in my audiences before, I remember having a clergy person at a university. I used to do college touring, and I was like, oh, they about to tear me up at this Baptist college. Because my work is very reverent, but it can also border sacrilegious a little bit. Because you don't dare say you the church, or that even though most people will say God lives in you and they like to quote the scripture in a beautiful way, but they don't really internalize that thing. And so I think my family, like I remember my parents coming to my house and I have an altar room. I ain't just got an ancestor altar, I got a whole damn room set up. And I was like, ooh, they gonna slide that glass, and you can see straight through it because it's a glass door. I said, they gonna look in there and be like, what be going on in here? What are these candles and these pictures? And my mama passed by it. She like opened and went in there. She said, oh, boo, got Medea in there. Like she really, so I think they understand, but they may be afraid to call a thing a thing. Like I grew up with a very superstitious grandmother. But she gonna say, and the Lord willing, and if the Lord say the same. But she also was, if you sweep my feet with that broom, now I got to spit on that broom, or all the other secret things that we do. And so I think my people know and they feel that resurgence of that in me, but we just never say it out loud. It's just understood. And my mama don't ask me no more, did you go to church this Sunday? Now if I come visit her, I might step foot in there just for out the respect. But she knows that I have church amongst my friends. When I'm somewhere performing, when I'm creating art, like she is starting to understand the bigness of God through me.
I love that. And Nate, you talked about how like your mom can recognize God in your own chosen practices. And since we're in New Orleans, I'm wondering like, what is y'all's spiritual gumbo? Meaning, what is the mixture of traditional faith practices that you grew up with and your chosen practices that feel authentic to you?
You see that little shimmy that came up? When something titillates me, I have a little shoulder shimmy. You want to talk about it?
Go ahead.
I'll be giving away all my practices.
I know.
I need whatever you're willing to share.
However, I would like to say that I divine in certain ways. And we grew up divining when we was kids. You, baby, heads or tails. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. You know? And so I'm going to just leave it at that, but I feel like I continue to do that. I do commune with my ancestors, whether that be just, hey, get me through the day. Because I do understand that I was there and they here. Like the fact that my mama's mama held her eggs and her mama's mama held her eggs. And I was one of those eggs that was held in the mama's mama's. Like I was there and they're here. And so when I look in the mirror, I see the faces of all of those people. I got me and my cousins were playing around the other day and I looked down at my feet and I said, oh, damn, I
got grown feet. Them Leela feet, baby. When I was younger, they didn't look like Leela feet, but the older I get, the more they settle into my bones. And so I reverence that however I can. And outside of that, my practice is just creating, because I feel like through creating, that is how I'm closest to God. One of my first tattoos I got was create, just as a reminder of who and whose I am.
Yeah, your body is the altar.
Yeah, when I was stitched, and when you were stitched in your mother's womb, I knew you before you knew yourself.
Come
right?
on with the scripture. Now, they know the scriptures. I could give a roundabout of them things. Paraphrase.
That was the drill team. You know what I would say to the, and we were serious. Baby, no, we traveled. No, look, I still know it. I would about face. I would position.
All with Christians.
Okay. What I will say is that my dreams, and I think that was the hardest for me, right? Like, I think there are things I do, and then there are just spiritual ways of convening and meeting that Spirit decided. And again, I talk about this so much because I really want you to imagine what it is like for a 9-year-old child to have a dream about their father dying, and then the next day they die, right? And what it meant to grow up with that kind of relationship with Spirit and with my dreamscape. And it stressed me out when I was, for most of my life. I feel like I have just in the last 7 years gotten in a relationship where I feel like in harmony. But I would say dreaming is definitely a part of my spiritual gumbo, and it comes through in all of my work. And also the elements. I often talk about the personification of the elements, like being and watching water, watching fire, just watching the elements themselves be alive, and seeing myself in relationship and realizing that I am kin to the way fire moves is a lot of what influences my spiritual tradition and then comes through in my writing.
Ooh, thank you for indulging me on that question. That was a little freestyle. I ain't know what that shimmy meant. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna cross the line. I was like, I told y'all, I asked y'all what was off limits before this. So now, like, going into another layer of womanhood or theme that I saw was how you both have learned how to manage your shame and own your pleasure. Yeah, so like reading both of your poems, like you were very.
I know. I said, let me lean back.
I told y'all I ain't new to this. So reading several of your poems, and Naomi, particularly Beloved or Beloved, the first one out of the gate. Talk about the gut punch. But the way you both talk about pain is not in a way where you're telling these sob stories for the sake of being pitied, right? It's more so like this pain is a part of who I am. You know, it's a part of my story and a part of, like I said, owning our humanity and owning all the things that make us human is acknowledging and making room for our pain, but also making room for the pleasure too. And what stood out to me in your poem, Beloved, Naomi, is you're so raw and naming all these negative things you internalized about yourself and shame you felt. But the last line is, but I was also beloved, right? And I just want to let that sit. And so I want you to share, how have you been able to make space for your pain and pleasure in the journey of like becoming? But I don't want you to focus so much on the pain. Like, I do want you to acknowledge that, but I want you to more so focus on why is it so important to you to talk about pleasure in this way?
Yeah. Beloved is so, I love that you bring that up. You know, my book is heavy. Like, the first couple of poems is heavy. I was joking with my boo thing, and they say, yeah, which poems you reading? Cause I said, I know, and you know, it gets lighter towards the end. But I had to, it's called The Clearing because anybody read Beloved by Toni Morrison? Okay, so I taught Beloved by Toni Morrison, and in Beloved, Baby Suggs, who is an unchurched preacher with a bad hip, she takes this group of black folks to a clearing in the middle of the woods, and she invites them to remember themselves and to remember their bodies. And in doing that, she also invites them to excavate the root of all that suffering and give it back to the land. So the clearing was absolutely my invitation to myself to do exactly that. That's why in that first poem, I'm telling you, I was molested, I've been evicted. My daddy's mama called me a bitch when I was 7. Like, I'm getting it out. And in the midst of me getting it out, I'm also grounding in the fact that I still know that I am beloved. I'm loved right now. And my mother, when I sold my book, came down. And I feel like my mother's first thing was she wanted to see what I had written about her in there. So she read my book, I'm telling you, in one swoop. I don't even think she sat down. She couldn't wait to put her fingers on there and see what I had written, you know? And so I also have a poem in there about self-pleasuring. And I was a little nervous. You know, I was 25 when my book came out. So I'm like, what am I going to say? And I asked her, I said, Mom, why do you think that in this poem where I open and I tell people on the first page, this is what happened to me, this was, I talk about being sexually assaulted as a child in a couple of the earlier poems. I said, why do you think I put this self-pleasure poem in there? And to hear my mom, like, take that in and, you know, say so clearly, like, especially when she uplifted was a position. She was like, I love that this is what you left me with, that you left me with this image of you giving pleasure back to yourself. And there wasn't nobody else involved. And it was your gift back to yourself. So to hear my conservative mama, you know, she always say I made her liberal, liberate herself to be able to see that. You know, and that my name means pleasure. I talk about this all the time. My name means God's delight. It's Imon spelled backwards. And in the story of Naomi in the Bible, though, Naomi was a woman who had endured so much suffering that when she gets back to her homeland, she says, don't call me Naomi anymore, meaning joy and pleasure. Call me Mara, meaning bitterness. And she felt like God had taken so much from her. But in the midst of that, she got Ruth right next to her who's saying, where you go, I'm going to go. Your gods are going to be my gods. Where you get buried, I'm going to get buried. And that juxtaposition has always stuck out to me because I'm like, okay, I could say my name is Mara. I could surrender to the bitterness. I could surrender to my own suffering. Or I can lift my gaze and see Ruth right next to me saying, baby, I'm rocking with you. You know, I always say it's the queerest love story ever told in the Bible. Like, here I got you, you my friend. I'm looking to the light with you. I'm going up to yonder with you, right? And that, especially right now, you know, I was just talking to a friend. I said, it's enough going on to really make you go crazy. And having relatives, you know, my eldest brother is schizophrenic. I got tons of relatives with, you know, severe mental differences. I am no stranger and no fool to how quickly it is to teeter in the other side of, you know, of the direction, I'll say mentally. So I feel for me, feasting on joy is truly not just a survival mechanism, but it's how I see myself, how I make way for myself into the future. Because I do not want to define my future by my suffering. I do want it to be defined by what is giving me pleasure, what is giving me joy, and allow that to sharpen my discernment as to what I create for myself.
I got the shit.
I ate that.
You did!
4 + 4. 4 times 2.
And Icon, you too talk about self-pleasure in your book, but you talk about it through The Color Purple, which is one of my favorite books in films. And I want to read just one little piece, and I hope I ain't stealing y'all shine because I know y'all got more poetry to steal. But yeah, what stood out to me was when you said, one day I was feeling down, I feeling mighty low when she gave me permission, me and Suge, to stop hiding behind a closed mouth and pried open legs, to finally see myself the way I came into this world, without burden, or shame, to smile big and wide and free of judgment. And that day, I synced me in that mirror. I know there's a God. I know that I ain't have to follow no man alive on earth to find heaven.
Ooh.
Yep.
Right? Y'all can snap and clap. Come on, interact.
You know, Color Purple is like part of the, I don't know, Southern Black canon.
The
or
babies
black,
in there too.
Yes. So it was so impactful for me. I think most Black people ain't know what we was watching if you didn't read the book first to really understand what was going on. And so I had seen the movie as a child, but I didn't understand until I read the book what really Suge gave to Celie, which was permission to please herself and not have to look to Mr. or no other man, her daddy, our father, or whoever. And so, yeah, that poem, when it came to me, I didn't even realize, again, how it was going to come. I just started talking about Celie, and then by the end of the poem, it was Celie actually talking to the Virgin Mary. Like, all my body knew was business and babies, and somebody made the decision for me. And Mary, somebody made the decision for you, and by those accounts, then that means you still a virgin. And so I just, and I didn't even think to look at it like that too, because it was so many layers.
So many layers. I love that poem.
So many layers of what the pleasure is and what the pain is, but I do love the correlation between, like what you were saying, Naomi. The book starts off kind of with this pain or what was taken, and then by the end it is that reclaiming, because my book ends with the poem All Our Medicine, that talks about in the end when we have the victory, like ain't nobody else's God gonna be there but my God receiving all the glory. And so yeah, it was just a journey of understanding that what I've been through and also what my people have been through is not the end of the story. And I think it's just brilliant that both of us started the book in kind of pain and searching, and then by the end of it, it's like, ding, we find, and not even find, we take back. And yeah, I think Nate said so much, I'm like, I'm still reeling over here, like, nah, and then you saying what? But yeah, I love that correlation and that parallel for both of our works.
Yeah. And like what I got from reading it, because like I said, it was one of my favorite poems. You see on the bookmark both of y'all poems. But yeah, it was just a part of like reclaiming is expanding in your full humanity, right? And I saw like expanding outside of someone else's, particularly a man's gaze and his abusive objectification, right? Just reclaiming our sexuality, our sensuality, our body and pleasure. And that could be outside of just, sex and self-pleasure. And that could be in other simple joys too. So moving into that spirit of like unlearning how to shriek, because I feel like that's the journey you took us on in both of your books, which was so amazing seeing how parallel they were. I know earlier I caught y'all talking about the color scheme. I was like, maybe I got more in common than the color scheme.
Publishing, but there's a lot. There's a lot of alignment.
Yeah.
That's what we can.
Yeah.
It was a similar journey of like I said, you talk about the pain, but not just your personal pain, but connecting it to this systemic, right, history, this collective history rather, through your Southern lineage, right? But you talk about like unlearning how to shrink yourself or reshape or dilute yourself to make yourselves palatable to other people, right? You touched on that, but like, yeah, I'm country as hell. Right, like A&M, right? I am from Alexandria, right? And you then transition into talking about, learning how to expand and owning your power, and sometimes that can simply begin with owning the pronunciation of your name. And you talk about that icon in your poem to all the little Black girls with big names. I love that poem. I'm gonna be selfish. I'm gonna use facilitator privilege right now. But but my name, is Shanice, but it's spelled with a Z. And ever since I was a little girl, people have mispronounced my name, especially these folks. No shade to our folks out there. But yeah, and I was joking with Gary earlier. I was like, I turned it into a game because I got tired of feeling like embarrassed about it, that people would constantly mispronounce my name, like, oh, how creative can you get with my pronunciation? And often I wouldn't correct people. I would just let them say my name however it was. And I wouldn't say I was ashamed of that Z, but I knew assumptions people would make about it, right? Because people would make these kind of like sly remarks like, oh, that's unique, a Z. Like, why is your mom, that's not even how it's pronounced. But, my mom shared with me throughout my life that the reason why she chose that Z was because her mother name is Nezari. She's an ancestor now, and my mom, she took a Z from her name and put it in my name. And when my grandmother became an ancestor, it was something about seeing that Z in my name. And now I own it with so much pride. So I may still play that playful game, like, oh, let me see what you got. Let me see how you pronounce my name. I'll give you a try, but I'm going to correct you, right? And that's me expanding and owning my power. So I just want to know from both of you, like, when was there a moment where you became aware, like, oh shit, like I'm really starting to stand in my power, like from a history of shrinking, maybe feeling a little embarrassed about being country in New Orleans, right? Maybe being a little bit embarrassed or not really knowing how to make sense of your Black Southern lineage. But now I see, like, even when y'all were talking about it, y'all shoulders went back, your posture changed. So I just want to know, like, was there a distinctive moment or memory you can remember, like, dang, like, I really done the inner work of getting to a place of, like, standing in my power?
I think that's still an ongoing thing. I'm ever expanding because there was a lot. That was a long time shrinking, so it's not an overnight process. But I will say, when I wrote that poem, I had no idea that was me also expanding. So, To All the Little Black Girls with Big Names was a poem that like went viral on the internet, and then some people tried to steal it and start putting it in memes and correct them every time and whatever. So I had to trademark that thing. Somebody even came out with a children's book, To All the Little Black Girls with Big Names. But I think, also the title of my book is My Name is Pronounced Holy, because not that I got tired of correcting people when they would ask how to pronounce my name, but it's like, if you can't say it, just call me Holy, Growing up as a little black girl with a name that has 10 letters and a apostrophe and a capital letter and all these things, you have to you have to be big. I had no choice but to be big, but I did get the assumptions. And I was in school for pre-med and then at Tulane for a master's in public health and all these things, and people still make the assumptions. And I think there is empowerment in not making people feel ignorant, but making them feel ignorant for making the assumption about you based on something like a name. But I think the name is the first part of like reclaiming what it is you answer to. Because if you let somebody call you by the wrong pronunciation of your name, you'll let them call you something, anything. Kevin Hart. The people at the roast. But yeah, it is an ongoing thing. So I think I'm still ever expanding. There wasn't one particular moment where I stopped shrinking. Again, I think art was where I started to not shrink anymore. Being a former slam poet and having to be big on stage in order to be seen, heard, revered, that gave me a lot of my confidence back. Because I will be honest, small towns can sometimes make you shrink too, Like it's part of, because if you stand out too much in a small town, it's one thing to stand out in New Orleans, but in a little town like Alexandria, like you gotta fit into the fold. And so I think I had to undo a lot of that as well, not just the name situation.
It's funny you mention that, because I was just in a recent conversation and we talked about shrinking. And I was like, well, the reason why I spent so much of my time and still on that journey of unlearning how to shrink is because I was tricked into thinking shrinking was synonymous to humility.
Yes, that part.
Yeah.
Because that's also part of the church too, is to be humble and not to want for money and things so much. And now I'm learning to like desire luxury and like be vocal about, I want luxurious things and I want to go luxurious places and I don't want the cheapest thing and I don't want to get the...
I'm a Taurus rising, that's the only language I speak.
Well, look.
They got money.
Baby, that was not a thing. And so with the religious trauma of it all too, and the humility of being humble. I recently just had to really start hyping myself up. And when I do, sometimes that little thing will creep back up, like, now you're being too whatever, and I have to hush it back down and let it know who running things. Yeah.
Man, I mean, if I'm being honest, I started.
Get into some poems in a minute.
Yes, I started shrinking when I moved to New Orleans. I feel before I moved to New Orleans, I was really running my little world. Like I was in Chicago, I was in Missouri, I was being a slam poet, and then I moved here and I started teaching. And teaching took so much from me, and I think also in that spirit of being humble and serving the student and like really leaving yourself at the door, I forgot myself for years. I didn't write poetry for 4 years, which is why my book was such a big celebration, because it was my reconnecting back with my craft after having stewarded so many young people and showing up for the kids and doing this all in service of instead of in service of myself. I feel that what helps me be in a place of actualization and be in a place of self-authority is multifold. One is when I remember who I'm named for. When I remember I'm named for my grandmother Naomi, who moved her family from Yazoo, Mississippi, her 4 kids, up to the south side of Chicago, worked for Operation Push with Jesse Jackson, got her college degree, was a sharecropper, and did all this work before she stroked out and left the earth at 34. And when I remember that I am her grandbaby and I am her namesake, I'm like, oh baby, I don't have time. I'm here for her and me, right? Like I don't have time to pretend I'm not all that I am to make other people uncomfortable. Because I think that's my truth is, I'm in this body, I'm in this presence, and my truth is my audacity to be myself and not shrink really upsets people. If you haven't confronted the parts of you that you want to nurture, that you want to see, just seeing me choose to love myself out loud is going to make you feel some type of way. And because of my Mars Cancer compassionate ass, I might see the ways in which you're triggered by me just being myself, and now I'm shrinking to make you feel more comfortable, right? So I feel like that is really what the story of my 20s was. Now, so many things. I just venerated Sarah Bartman for, I do burlesque, and baby, just the whole experience of that, I rebirthed myself into a new power, into a new self-possession, and into a new authority. So I feel both understanding who I'm in, what work I got to do on this earth, and how I got to get out of my own way, and I ain't got no time to play small. And then also bringing in again the spiritual lineage of my dreamscapes and of my psyche. I had an experience where I was able to start seeing and knowing who my past lives were, and all of them motherfuckers was big people, okay? Big bodies, big essences, big vehicles. And then realizing like, oh, spirit ain't never wanted me to be small. Who the hell am I stripping for? Why? So I think all of that pushed me into a self-authority and knowing that my name means, again, God's delight, pleasure, joy, allowed me to, and is allowing me to continually rest and return back home to my own self-authority position.
Awesome. Child Khan, and then open up this book. That's my signal for the benediction. So I just have one closing question for y'all to get to your beautiful readings. You both named this event Sit and Simmer for a reason, right? And you talked about the timeline multiple times throughout this conversation of birthing, declaring into this world or alchemizing it. So, we're in a culture now of algorithm and impressions and content creation over community, verified checks, and it can seem like there's this pressure to constantly put out to be quote unquote relevant, to be seen for visibility. But I want to know, because you both were obedient in taking your time. And I'm pretty sure there were moments where you felt that tug of like, we need to do this now. We need to do this now. We need to put this out. But you were obedient in listening to spirit and knowing when it was time, right? Because y'all both have told me this conversation was 5 years in the making.
Yes.
So I want you to speak to yourself and to the audience, because I know the audience is filled with creatives. Like that moment where you feel that tension between the world that is causing you to just like, nah, produce, to go against the spirit of like knowing when your timing is. What affirmations or meditations do you speak over yourself in that moment?
I mean, I always think good food takes time.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I was dating this New Orleans man, this New Orleans boy, and I was getting learned things. And one of the things that I got learned was I was cooking. I'm not much of a cook. Like my mama always says I run from the kitchen like, cook for me. But I know how to do things. I don't want to downplay myself. But I had the fire on high. I was cooking some green beans with some turkey leg, and I had that fire on high. He came, he said, no, baby, you gotta let that simmer, you know, and he turned it down. And I remember that moment, and it changed the way I cook, but also I feel like that is the spirit of this. It's understanding like, ooh, if I want it to taste good, I want it to linger in my mouth. I want them flavors to taste good another day. Sometimes you have to let it sit, simmer, marinate, cook, get together, and then see what it is. Because I also think that I have a new lens to see this work. You know, because the clearing was such an opportunity for me to talk about things that hurt me, I will say I think I still felt shame even after I put it out. And I think also because it was poetry that I had been sitting on, the artist's ego in me was like, I've evolved as a writer. And I read about different things. And I had so much critique for my work, but I feel like now I'm like, damn, baby, this was what you was writing when you was 22. And a lot of my poetry in here, I use so much language. I use so many words to describe a thing, and I'm like, ooh, baby, I had so much to say. I had so much moving through me that I was trying to figure out how to get out and get onto the page. So I think that the gift of sitting and simmer is also the gift of reflection. And there's a way that the maturity that I have now is able to sit and revere that work and talk about that work and say, yes, she deserves this in a way that I don't know that I would have had the self-authority to do when we first dropped it. I probably would have been cowering and a little bit more insecure in myself, but now I'm like, man, I'm a fucking stands, and I didn't know I done sold 1,000 copies, and like, it's I know what it's done outside of this, so I feel that, and I feel that so clearly in both of our works. I love returning to Con's work. Because there's, I think my favorite thing to do with your work is just open up and ask my question in a divine way, in a way that Alexis Pauline Films does.
You got a divine with the book. I think the Virgo perfectionist and the country girl in me won't allow me to rush anything. Baby, my mom and them, they was known as the late family because they gonna get there. We gonna get there when we get there. And I think that whole idea of sitting on the porch and just watching the world go by and not rushing to get nowhere or do anything, because there is no rush hour traffic. There is none of that. Allows you to, I said in a poem I just wrote in a book that I've been sitting and simmering on, my second and third book, where I said something like, the quiet of the country is like where you hear God best.
Yeah.
And so I think what Naomi said in that sitting with this work, I think if we would have done this book talk 5 years ago, I've had it set and simmered with me over these 5 years, to where when I go back and revisit, I'm like, man, I have to give myself props for like, I really am brilliant, and this work is classic, because 5 years later, these poems are still hitting me in different ways that like I didn't even know when I was writing it down.
Right.
And so I think also I believe in divine timing of things. Like I was rushing to get here earlier, and then I was like, calm down, slow down. Because I also am of this crazy belief that when you speed up, then time speeds up. And that's why we're always like, oh, time gonna flew by, because we're always just flying. So of course time gonna fly by. But when I go home to visit my people in Alexandria, the days go so long and so slow. And so, yeah, that's it in the summer part. I think that is a lesson and a blessing for all of us. And something I took from not even just writing this book, but from us playing this talk to my life, My life has been a sit and simmer because at almost 46.
You look good,
Thank
baby.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
You know, you think there's certain places or things you would accomplish or be or whatever, but it's sitting and simmering. And when I taste it, that thing gonna be good when I open that pot and you gotta.
Tenderism.
It's gonna be tenderism. Yes. And that's all I got to say about that.
Awesome. Give it up one more time for Naomi and Icon. So now we've talked a lot about their books. Some of y'all probably read their books from cover to cover, like I have, bookmarked it. But we want to hear from your voice. So they're gonna read a poem or two or three or however the spirit allows them to move. So I'm just gonna turn it over to y'all.
I'm gonna do a little 2 shorts, and so that y'all can stick around and be able to visit our lovely merch tables over here. If you have not already, there is. I think I just unhooked myself from the microphone, the other microphone. There is sweet tea on the table. We were intentional about making sure y'all had a little something to sip on. Baby, hook me up. Also, we both have merch. Naomi has some beautiful hand-poured candles that are also served as a body massage oil. So if you need a little pleasure for that pain that you've been through, I highly suggest you go and see them and get some of that. And I have some offerings as well for you to take and give yourself and give others. We believe, I think being around Naomi and being in fellowship with Naomi has taught me in how to treat myself good. Not just like how to take care of myself, but how to love on myself. And so I just want to thank you for that gift of allowing me to sit and simmer with myself from just watching you. And you would think that Naomi is my elder, because it took me forever to be like, now you 20, but how old? Like, I feel like Naomi 33, so I got a good 13 years almost on that. But you would never guess it because she's so mature and I'm also so childish at times. Timeless. So I'm gonna do a quick 2 for y'all, and then we'll allow the audience to ask a couple of questions if y'all have some, and then we benedict. I don't know if that's the verb for it, but that's what it's gonna be today. So I like call and response. So when I say I'm so country, y'all say, how country are you? Y'all got it?
Yeah.
Sopranos right here, altos right here, tenors right here. Y'all ready? So I'm so country.
How country are you?
I don't think y'all heard me. I said I'm so country.
How country are you?
I don't be surprised at all when all this drawl slip from between these good and greasy lips. I'm so country.
How country are you?
I be taking sips of lukewarm tap water from Mason-Dixon jars filled with so much metal I can still taste the shackle. I'm so country.
How country are you?
Country enough to be sitting on the hoods of broke down cars with a yard full of them, so they must be good for something. I'm so country.
How country are you?
I call all my cousins cousin, even though we were raised more like brothers and sisters. I'm so country.
How country are you?
We make sure to be in the house of the Lord every Sunday, even when something is wrong, because whatever it is, surely Jesus can fix it. And we sing the hymns exactly the way the elders taught us, even if the words are wrong. Because a tedious journey and a teacher's journey both seem like the same kind of hard. And we eat the peppermint, or the butterscotch, or the strawberry hard candy. There you go. From mother such and so's or sister such and so's purse. And we say, yes, ma'am, and thank you, ma'am, because sweetness should always be on a country girl's tongue.
Come on.
Yes.
Black, 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 black on black, black, my thoughts so black, black, black on black, I'm fuck that black on black, 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 black on black on black on black on black on black, 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 black on black, black, my thoughts so black, black, black on black. My skin so black, I'm rocking that black on black is black. Black, 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 black on black on black on black on black on. You too black. Like ain't come over here with a passport or a visa black. Like 2 bottom of the cargo ship black. Like 2 bottom of the Atlantic black. 2 bottom of the melting pot black. You know, you the kind of black that ain't never really been nowhere. Got 1 foot stuck in a plot of land that carries your blood but somebody else's name. the other foot anchored in your own forgetful mouth. You too loud, black. A black that everything that wishes to be black tries to swallow. Everybody else want to tell your story, black. Want to sing your songs and not call it karaoke, black. Mimic your cool and disregard all the scorching red summers that made you this black. You know, you too bottom of the spaceship, black. A black this world can't even behold. A black so infinite that when you are told to go back where you come from, you know that that means everywhere.
Ooh. Yes. Okay, amen.
Amen.
All right.
All right, doors of church are open.
Okay. I'm going to tell you when.
Okay.
But you going to sing What's in the Talent.
Okay.
From here.
That's that drill team coming out.
Yeah, so you'll sing what's in it, and I'll give you a cue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank y'all again for being here, coming here on this voting Sunday. On so many things. Oh, this is Saturday. So many things happen.
Feel like church.
It is. I said I felt like I was getting ready for church this morning. I'm going to start with an excerpt from my poem Roots. Again, as I was reflecting and looking at this collection, I just had so much love for Baby Nay, and I could just feel myself. I was a women and gender studies major, so that basically meant I studied Black feminism in college, and I feel that so alive in just like the way I was learning to talk about my experience. And also, again, I feel like Black feminist scholarship took me back to myself and took me back to my own ancestry. So I'm going to read a quick excerpt from Roots. I'm here, stretched from cement-lined wounds, rising from glutinous graveyards, cried out like the rocks, my hands open to God. I'm mystifying magic, eradicating desolation, enchanted. I come from chiseled mornings, prayer hands at daybreak, and the wisdom of Sunday afternoon. I am the soul of Black ladies humming on sun-dipped porches, waving away their desert-dry tears, chorus together in strong song, letting their calloused feet and soft dresses show them vulnerable. I stand here, looking at the benevolent blackness of my inward self, ripe and reaching. And now I'm going to do a little excerpt from, I'm going to end on a love poem, because I just feel like let's invite some of that into the room. It's a Taurus new moon today. But before I do that, I'm going to do an excerpt from Wet Behind the Ears. This is when Khan's going to sing with me. And I'm going to do this whenever I need you to sing.
Gotcha.
And I love this because, are y'all familiar with the term Wet Behind the Ears? Okay, I'm like, is that Black universal? You never know. But I feel that 25 was when I realized how deeply wet behind the ears I was. Because at 23, you couldn't tell me nothing. I was grown. I was making my first salary job. Maybe I was living in New Orleans. I had my girlfriend. You couldn't tell me nothing, right? And then 25, a series of things happened that invited me to remember that about myself and the glory in being wet behind the ears. So I'm going to start at age 12. I remember being about 12 years old, with ashy elbows and unpainted toes, staring at this big, grotesque picture in our living room. It was a painting of the Last Supper, the Black edition. All of the men had real big afros, even Jesus himself. Mama ain't never hang up no white folks. Could never have no white dolls neither. That big grotesque picture of Black Jesus and his fearful army stayed hung high in our home for years. And it scared me shitless. It was the same fear I had when I was left in the sanctuary alone at night after choir rehearsal, a usher practice, a Bible study, a drill team. There was always something that had me bone stiff in the middle of the sanctuary, quiet and scared.
Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Oh, I know the Oh My Lord.
Oh my Lord, what shall I do?
Okay, bring it back.
Amen. Age 13. I started seeing things real young. Started seeing things float on past me. Hear things with no flesh. I didn't ask questions though, because mama forbid me for talking about ghosts or the dead after daddy died. So I assumed that I was seeing demons because that was the only thing without flesh that mama still saw, still talked about. All them demons and crosses and pictures of black Jesus made me feel like I was being watched. I grew guilty and terrified under that watch.
We've come this far by faith,
Come on.
leaning on the Lord, trusting in His
I see y'all
holy
singing.
word.
Come on.
He hasn't failed me
Okay, you
yet.
see the real she's singing. Age 16. As soon as I was of the mind to do it, I ran from God and mama and everything that looks like memory. I closed my ears from the sound of her humming her voice across down home stickiness and up north depression. One day I sat across from mama at a dinner table and I told her I thought Jesus was a metaphor. Told her I believed that there were many who lived the light of Christ but stole that kind of justice. I was starting to see the divinity within myself, and I couldn't understand the notion of a God who wanted me to feel small and minimal. Sorry. I told the storm to pass. Storm, you can't last. Go away. I demand you to move today.
Okay, I remember.
Okay, well, age 18. I've learned that sometimes God takes away everything you think you need on purpose. Makes you fall down and fumble to your knees, scraping with worn hands and a desolate throat, till you ain't got no choice but to shout, no choice but to declare that I am made of earth and divinity. God rules in me. Therefore, I am magic, spellbound fortitude, the embodiment of creation. But mama always did say a hard head make a soft ass, so I didn't learn this no easy way.
Sister, you've been on my mind.
Come on.
Oh, sister, we're two of a kind. So, sister, I'm keeping my eyes on you.
Age 21. I remember reading The Color Purple for the first time and feeling like everything that was green and beautiful and alive was speaking to me, telling me to be sexy and sensual, to open myself, to let go and let in. So, well, I even let in the bullshit. Fucked it and craved it too. Partially overcompensating for the parts of me that still thought that fat girls and black girls and queer girls were never promised love. Back when I thought that love was supposed to be a whirlwind, a show, progress without exchange. I loved recklessly. Nailed my love on the walls of lovers who told me it was unwanted. Convinced that I could show up and show out until they decided to return my abundance. Drunk, smoked, and abused my psych meds. I was willing to do anything to actualize my fantasies and live the story of love I just knew them skinny bitches was living. I was still going to war with myself. I was still going to war with God, which meant I was dueling with myself, squeezing and stuffing and compromising my juicy ass to fit in a world built on soil, suffocated by thorns.
That sometimes you have to encourage yourself. Sometimes you have to speak victory during the test.
Woo! You know, every time I kind of sing, I kind of catch the spirit, y'all. So I'm sorry if it takes me out of character. That was a little excerpt from Wet Behind the Ears, and I'm going to close with Loose Women. And this is my invitation for you to ground in on this Taurus new moon as you just fixate yourself on one thing that you want to actualize that feels like it puts you in the direction of your wildest pleasure. Okay? Our souls knew each other before we did. Someplace magic, where thick cerulean silk sprang from the morning trees to greet us. Our hot, watery brown bones broke through the thickness of our sycamore-covered skin to be there. Sometimes I sit on sunflower-coated dreams, holding my head to the sky, daring myself to witness your hold me still eyes. Most times my belly sits tight, practicing heartbreak, because magic is for loose women and witches and them ungodly folks. The worldly ones with lipstick stains on their liberated, blistered mouths. Plus my mother said I could never, should never love this way. One day I pictured us naked. Often we are naked, with our bloomers snatched, our pelvis up, and our breasts erect towards a moonlight we could barely make out, but yet wanted so badly to feel. We daydreamed hopelessly under ginkgo trees, tasted elderberry sweetness on our black, delicious mouths, juices thick and untouched, berries plucked from the finest fiery bush, and we heard God there, the one them godly ones can't hear. And collectively we reigned above the glare of too much love lost, like a heaping explosive love machine made of wet dreams, escape, and one-way ticket train rides. Thank y'all so much.
So at this time, if the audience got any questions, las preguntas. Three. Any no questions? Questions, comments, concerns?
We marinate something.
Oh,
They sit and simmer.
Right.
well, as you simmer, I'm gonna close this out right quick because I feel like this needs to be said. On top of, thank you again, New Orleans African American Museum. This would not be at all possible. We are on holy ground, so of course it is only right that we had a little church. It is only right that the people who were here on today were here. I don't know if you understand this, but it is divine that you were indeed here. Because like Naomi said earlier, you could have been anywhere else, but the fact that you're here in this time, in this space, it was known before you were even thought of that this would be the place that you would be. So we should revel in that and praise in that and glorify in that and walk out of here today feeling renewed and changed. I don't feel like an experience is worth it if you don't walk out of it different. If I go here, flim, spin, I'm walking out of that thing different. If I go and see one of Gion's movies, I'm walking out of there different. If I go and see one of Erica's exhibits, I'm walking out of there different. If I see Chris's art, I'm walking out of there different. And so I think if I go to a festival, Shadai has put it on, I'm going there not to walk out of there the same. So my prayer, my hope, and my, not even hope, but my expectation is that you walk out of here a little bit different than you did on today. And that you understand again that the church is in you. And I was going to do a whole poem, but I don't even think it's necessary, but I'm going to just say the last part is I come from people, women who know how to turn classrooms and kitchens into pulpits. My mama works in education, but she ministers through that. And they are the type of women who have taught me that when your life becomes a sermon that don't nobody else want to hear, shit, sometimes you got to be your own. Amen. Amen. Y'all have any questions? And I think that's a benediction.
Yeah.
And if you don't buy our books is over there.
And we'll
for
be
sale,
over there.
And they'll be in the bookstore, yes.
I mean, first of all, just a hand clap, please. I'm a wax poetic.
Come on. No, this a writer.
No
damn posts, y'all. They be poems.
And a dancer, baby. I haven't seen them lines. Okay? Period.
No, but I've been reflecting a lot recently, and I inherited Saturdays about 3 years ago. I've been the creative producer about 3 years, the first one. And that's no credit to me, but more so credit to when land responds to need and to community in that way. And I've been sitting with this. My mother sent me this, Erica, I love you. My mother's a grand ancestor at this point, and she's been sending me thoughts around one of the last things she said to me of you have to just do it, right? You have to be your own amen in a similar way. And so for me, these programs, these moments that my day job that I get to do are really about if our ancestors had enough stamina, I hate this word, but resiliency, to be able to go and serve and teach and do for you and still go and learn to write a letter at the hearth every night, then this is our hearth. This is why literacy, words, a knowledge-forward museum is so important, because they're trying to erase us and our history and our words and our language and those moments, those reasons to gather, to learn, to be. So I thank you all for this moment. It is divine. It is a miracle that we are all here at this space time in this way. And so again, we send you off, hopefully different, hopefully changed. This is not a one-off. This program happens. Yeah, I mean, you know, we hear you, and the Lord hears you. I hope He fixes it. I hope He fixes it.
I hope He fixes it.
But we hope to see you again in community monthly here at the museum whenever you so choose to. Hit me up, come by. It doesn't matter. The other things that I'll say is that yes, this lovely person's book is for sale in the gift shop. This lovely person's book will be on sale in the gift shop in the next week or so, right? So the ways in which you are involved in our ecosystem will not disappear at all. Certainly not quickly as long as we have something to do with it. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Follow Noam Tremaine at Noam Tremaine. Follow Justbird _
Where can we find you? Yeah.
Icon artist.
Naomi Sherelle.
Naomi Sherelle.
Perfect.
And I just want to ask y'all one last, because we giving. I need something from y'all. So throw me out a word. However it is that you feel like you're feeling, or a word that resonated with you throughout this time. I need a word from everybody. Since we gave y'all words, I need a word from you.
Rebirthing.
Oh, no, let's wait for the motorcycle. That's my daddy. He drove on.
Yeah, motorbike.
That's his spirit.
And both our daddies is motorbike boys.
Rebirthing.
Rebirthing.
Anointed. Luxury. Grateful.
Veneration.
Veneration. Whole.
Reclamation.
Healing. Affirmation. Reclamation. I heard. Peaceful. Reservoir. Repository.
Come on. I like that.
Awesome.
I'm full.
Awesome.
And I'm grateful.
Friends.
Yeah.
No, you got.
No, I'm just gonna say, come get some offerings, and some hugs, and take some pictures, and go back and tell people what you experienced, heard, whatever. That's as artists, that's the most you can do for us. Even if you don't buy a book or do whatever, go tell somebody I heard some beautiful poems by some beautiful people and it's a beautiful conversation
But if we
in a
could,
beautiful space.
but if we could, one more deep hand clap